You're watching South Asia Newsline, and here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Tuesday, the 29th of April. India slams Pakistan, calls it a rogue state fueling global terrorism. India may be first to finalise trade deal with US, says Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And Nepal plans to restrict Everest permits to experienced climbers. And now for all the details. From the UN to the line of control, India and Pakistan are locked in a heated confrontation. India accused Pakistan of fueling global terrorism at a UN counter-terrorism session, while on the ground, the Indian Army responded to Pakistan's unprovoked firing along the LOC. Our report.
Amid soaring tensions between New Delhi and Islamabad following the recent Pahalgam terror attack, India on Monday slammed Pakistan, highlighting Pakistani Defense Minister Khawaja Asif's statement on backing terrorism for decades. Speaking at a session of the United Nations Office of Counter-Terrorism, India's Deputy Permanent Representative to the UN, Yojna Patel, tore into Islamabad after the Pakistani delegation raked up Kashmir at the forum. Responding to the remarks, Patel referenced Asif's statement to British media outlet Sky News regarding terrorism support, saying, "This open confession surprises none and exposes Pakistan as a rogue state, fueling global terrorism and destabilizing the region." She added, "The world can no longer turn a blind eye." Patel further accused Islamabad of misusing and undermining the global forum to indulge in propaganda and make baseless allegations against India.
It is unfortunate that one particular delegation has chosen to misuse and undermine this forum to indulge in propaganda and make baseless allegations against India. The whole world has heard Pakistan's Defense Minister Khawaja Asif admitting and confessing Pakistan's history of supporting, training and funding terrorist organizations in a recent television interview. This open confession surprises no one and exposes Pakistan as a rogue state fueling global terrorism and destabilizing the region. The world can no longer turn a blind eye.
On Tuesday, India said it had responded to unprovoked firing from Pakistan along the line of control for the fifth consecutive night, as searches continue for terrorists in the region following the deadly attack on tourists. In a statement, the Indian Army said, "During the night of 28th to 29th April, the Pakistan Army resorted to unprovoked small arms firing across the line of control in areas opposite Kupwara and Baramulla districts, as well as the Akhnur sector." The statement added, "The Indian Army responded in a measured and effective manner to the provocation." The development comes amid Pakistan's Defense Minister Khawaja Asif's war rhetoric. Speaking to Reuters, Asif alleged that according to Pakistan's military, India may launch an offensive operation and warned that Islamabad would use its arsenal of nuclear weapons if its existence is threatened. One of the deadliest attacks in over a decade, the terrorist attack in Pahalgam killed 26 people, with India alleging that 2 suspected terrorists were Pakistani. Islamabad refutes any connection with the incident.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Monday said many top trading partners of the United States have made very good proposals to avert U.S. tariffs, and one of the first deals to be signed would be likely with India. Speaking to reporters, Bessent said the first such trade agreement might come this week or next, but gave no further details. Trump has upended the global trading system with a spate of tariffs since taking office. These include a blanket 10% tariff on most countries except Canada and Mexico, and new tariffs totaling 145% on goods from China, which has responded with its own countermeasures. Higher U.S. tariffs on dozens of countries are due to take effect on July 8th unless deals are reached before a 90-day pause ends. India is also working a bilateral trade deal with Britain, with their top trading officials starting 2 days of talks aimed at concluding more than 3 years of negotiations. Pakistan's solar power surge is lighting up homes for some, but for the middle class, it's a dark reality of soaring electricity costs and crippling inflation. As wealthier citizens embrace solar energy to escape an unreliable grid, millions are left struggling to keep the lights on. We have a report.
In Karachi's scorching heat, industrial engineer Fahim Ali cleans his rooftop solar panels a $3,559 investment that shields him from Pakistan's skyrocketing electricity tariffs and frequent power cuts. Triggered by an IMF bailout deal, power prices have surged over 25%, pushing solar to 14% of Pakistan's energy supply last year, nearly double China's share, per UK think tank Ember. But for the urban middle class, the solar revolution is out of reach. Soaring bills and inflation force families to slash electricity use, while power companies, losing wealthy solar users, hike tariffs further to cover fixed costs, deepening the economic burden on grid-dependent households.
I went for off-grid system for quite a few reasons. One of them was load shedding. If I go for on-grid system and there is a load shedding power outage issue, I will not be able to, enjoy the benefit of the sunlight and the system.
Miles from Ali's solar-powered home, 65-year-old Muhammed squeezes his family of 7 into a 2-room apartment, unable to afford solar panels or find rooftop space. His 36 to 54 monthly electricity bill, nearly his entire pension, forces drastic cuts. No air conditioning, ironing only for special occasions. Only 1% of consumers used over 400 units of power in 2024, down from 10% pre-pandemic per Renewables First. Most solar setups don't feed the grid due to $1,400 to $1,800 inverter costs, leaving apartment dwellers like Sadiq shut out of the so-called revolution.
लोग जो मार खा रहे हैं बस बिजली से मार खा रहे हैं इसके बिल ने हम लोगों को तबाह कर दिया है हमारी लाइफ खत्म कर दी है इसने जो आ रहा है बस आधा पैसा इधर ही जा रहा है हमारा बिजली के बिलों में बस ये परेशानी है हम लोगों की एक महंगाई इतनी है रोटी खाएं या बिजली का बिल अदा करें हम लोग क्या करें हम लोग आमदनी इतनी है ही नहीं हमारी मेरी पेंशन 10,000 रुपए
While businesses and affluent families are saving millions, Pakistan's middle class drowns under a $9 trillion energy sector debt and 6.3% tariff surcharges per Arzakal. Energy Minister Awais Lagari admits net metering strains non-solar users, but with inverter costs, up to $1,800, unaffordable for most, the solar boom fuels inequality. As grid prices soar and inflation cripples families, Pakistan faces a critical choice: adapt policies to share solar's benefits or risk leaving millions in the dark, struggling to survive.
A United Nations Women's Division report reveals that over 70% of Afghan women face significant barriers to accessing humanitarian aid, driven by a shortage of female staff and Taliban restrictions on women's mobility, according to Khama Press. Released on April 27th, the report details how Taliban policies, including mandatory male guardianship, strict dress codes, and bans on women working for NGOs and UN agencies, severely limit access to healthcare, education, nutrition, and protection services. Only 43% of school-aged girls receive education, with virtually no girls aged 13 to 17 attending school, perpetuating a cycle of poverty. Economic pressures have intensified, forcing women-led households to skip meals, withdraw children from school, and arrange early child marriages. The scarcity of female health workers has worsened maternal health outcomes, increasing risks of gender-based violence and early marriage. Women-led organizations advocate for change, but struggle with funding shortages. The report calls for recruiting more female staff in humanitarian agencies and funding women-led groups to bridge the gap. Bangladesh's chief advisor, Professor Muhammed Yunus, on Monday approved the license for the American NGSO service provider Starlink. The Bangladesh Telecommunication Regulatory Commission last month issued licensing guidelines titled Non-Geostationary Orbit Satellite Services Operator in Bangladesh, according to the chief advisor's press wing. In accordance with these guidelines, Starlink Services Bangladesh submitted an application to the BTRC, including the applicable fees and necessary documents to obtain the NGSO Satellite Services Operator license. A policy decision to issue the license was made during the BTRC's 294th Commission meeting held on 21st of this month. Starlink marks a new addition to Bangladesh's internet landscape, making it the second South Asian country after Sri Lanka to welcome the global satellite internet provider. Sri Lankan former President Ranil Wickremesinghe has cautioned that the United States could respond negatively if Sri Lanka dismisses the FBI's finding on the 2019 Easter Sunday attacks. Speaking during an interview, Wickremesinghe said that the FBI investigation concluded that Zaharan Hashim was the mastermind behind the attacks. He claimed that if Sri Lanka attempts to promote a different narrative, it could anger US President Donald Trump, who might react by imposing higher taxes or even taking diplomatic action similar to how he treated Ukraine's leadership during his tenure. Wickremesinghe also recalled that it was President Trump who shortly after the Easter attacks personally spoke to him and deployed the FBI to assist with the investigations. 9 suicide bombers belonging to local Islamist extremist group linked to ISIS carried out a series of devastating blasts that tore through 3 Catholic churches and as many luxury hotels, killing nearly 270 people, including 11 Indians, and injuring over 500. Nepal will issue Everest permits only to climbers who have scaled at least one of the Himalayan nation's 7,000-meter peaks, according to the draft of a new law aimed at reducing overcrowding and improving safety. Under the proposed law, an Everest permit will be issued only after a climber provides evidence of having climbed at least one 7,000-meter peak in Nepal. The law further states that the head of the local staff and mountain guide accompanying climbers must be Nepali citizens. International expedition operators, however, have urged Nepal to allow any 7,000-meter peak, not just those in the Himalayan nation, for the Everest permit. Nepal, which depends on climbing, trekking and tourism for foreign exchange, has faced criticism for permitting too many climbers, including inexperienced ones, to ascend the 8,849-meter peak. This often results in long queues of climbers in the dead zone, an area below the summit with insufficient natural oxygen for survival. At least 12 climbers died and another 5 went missing on Everest slopes in 2023, a year when Nepal issued 478 permits. 8 climbers died in 2024. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.